first story I want to cover that I want to give my perspective on is Bumble, the dating app. And it's not really a dating app because it's a lot more than that. So we're going to talk about that and get into that discussion right now. Bumble is going public. Well, it actually is public by the time you're watching this. And Bumble founder and CEO Whitney Wolfe Herd is one of the very small amount of women founders that have been able to actually lead a company public, which is a sad thing that exists in 2021, but it's an amazing thing to give her credits and roses right now so that she can smell those roses, because you need to give people the roses while they can smell them. This is an amazing accomplishment, specifically because Bumble, not only is it a company that is led by a woman. In Silicon Valley tech startups, there's not a lot of companies led by women and minorities. So the fact that one of those identities was able to go lead a company public into the actual public markets is an amazing thing. But another reason this is important is because the competition that Bumble was against. Like, Bumble was not competing against, little stupid dating apps here and there. Bumble was competing against the giant of all giant dating apps, which is Tinder. And Tinder is one of those dating apps that has existed for a very long time and has basically had a monopoly on dating for a pretty long time. Obviously, in the beginning, it was Match.com and eHarmony and all that stuff in the early ages, but Tinder is what really resonated with the millennial generation to a different extent. So Bumble is public. I think the really cool news about this is that it's important to understand the sort of infrastructure of Bumble. They're not only a dating app, but they're also a networking app and networking has two elements. So they have Bumble Business and Bumble Friends. So people can go on Bumble not only if they want to find a companion, but they can also go to Bumble if they want to find a business relationship, a networking relationship, or just a friend. I've used Bumble in the past before from the romantic side of it. This was 2-3 years ago, back when I was a sophomore in college. Don't really use any of those dating apps anymore, but I don't know if I'm trying to say I don't need them anymore or nothing, or I'm just so focused on my grind I can't focus on girls right now. But anyway, yeah, Bumble is one of those things that's really, really cool. So I think there's a couple of things here to discuss. I do see Bumble as a bigger thing than just dating. When you think of Tinder, the brand is synonymous with dating, which is sort of good for it because then it becomes the market leader in that one space. But I also think that's not the best thing in the world for Tinder, because if you are truly this peer-to-peer networking site where you can just swipe right or swipe left in order to get notified on certain things, I feel like expanding outside of that is really, really important. And Bumble, to me, seems like it has the capacity to actually expand beyond just dating. Obviously, dating is its biggest source of revenue, but other things could be really, really big as well. So I'm going to get back to that in a second, because there's a couple of things where Bumble could be uniquely in a good position to be acquired. But another thing is that this whole dating app is based upon the idea that women choose first, right? Women message first. Basically, Whitney, the CEO and founder, the problem that she had when she was working with dating apps back in 2012, 2013, was that there was just a bunch of thirsty guys with horrible pickup lines that were messaging first. And they were saying some really, crappy stuff and bad stuff and aggressive stuff and vulgar stuff, things of that nature. So the entire premise or philosophy for the application is, can we implement a system where women have the power to actually be able to go decide if they want to be courted or not, or essentially do the courting themselves. People told me that the word courting is like an old word or something. I feel like courting is a very, when you court someone, you're trying to get their, attention. I feel like that's not 1920s, or I don't know. I think that's a good word to use. Anyway, so that's the real differentiating variable of this application. I think they've obviously gone through the whole women empowerment branding angle, and outside of it being a branding angle or a marketing ploy, it really truly is baked into the essence of the technology of itself, right? Unless you are a woman, you cannot message first. And the whole idea, people are well, why don't you just lie about being a woman? It's well, if I'm a guy and I'm trying to get with girls, and I want girls who want guys, I can't lie about that. That makes no sense. So overall, it's been an entire application and business model that has proved people wrong in terms of its ability to actually scale, primarily based upon this philosophy that it could actually do what it needed to do. Bumble went through some tough times in the beginning in terms of just getting through the entire thing. The co-founder went through multiple companies. They went through Tinder. They went through Match.com. They had a whole bunch of things that they went through in the early stages, but once they were finally at Bumble and scaling Bumble, it ultimately got to the point where it's at today, where it's, I believe, what is it, at the $70 stock price? Bumble stock price is what we got. $75. Not bad. That's a really that's crazy, bro. Like it had a $2.5 billion initial public offering. That means the dating app was valued at $8.2 billion, but shares have been increased from that. That's amazing. That's unbelievable. Their shares soared 75% after its IPO, making its 31 founder a rare self-made woman billionaire, which is kind of wild. But that's sort of my thoughts on Bumble. I think it's a pretty cool thing. The thing I was going to get to in terms of networking was that Bumble potentially has a ploy here where they can either be acquired by LinkedIn or they can compete against LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is obviously this like insane social network for business and marketing, so it's going to be very hard to just compete against them. But that's what we said about Bumble and competing against Tinder in the early ages, right? So like I do see a possibility for Bumble to be able to have a unique differentiating angle, especially if people are tired of LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn's annoying. Like I'll just put it at that. Like LinkedIn's not a fun place to consume content. Maybe this is just my experience, but I've tried posting content on there. I've tried consuming it, and it's just annoying. Not only are the messages just filled with spam of all these ridiculous network marketers trying to get you to join some pyramid scheme or some nonsense, but it's also just like the content there is not as diversified as you would think it is, right? Like if you go on Instagram, you can find a bunch of different things. On LinkedIn, it's literally like, I would like to thank all my friends and family for helping me get this internship at Microsoft. It's like, no one gives a fuck. Like no one cares that you're working at Microsoft. Like it's just not, I mean, I don't know. It's not the most interesting thing. Obviously it's like a digital professional revenue and it's a really good sales B2B communication tool, but in terms of a content hub, there's a lot of great content on it, and there's a lot of people probably making a lot of money off their content off of it. It's just not been the most exciting thing, I think, at least also for the millennial generation. So if Bumble has a way to increase the value of the entity that is Bumble, that is not synonymous with simply dating like Tinder is, to potentially go after a market opportunity in which millennials would be more interested in a business networking, sort of more media integrated application, I do see that as a potential opportunity and something that could be, probably beneficial for the application in and of itself. Last March, Bumble reported a 23% increase in sent messages in New York City and a 26% increase in San Francisco in just a 10-day period. This was during COVID. So obviously COVID also helped people who were at home, who weren't able to like go out and traditionally date, meet each other. So not only did COVID help Bumble, but they had a 70% revenue growth in 2019. Basically, it's a big league player right now, and excited to see where Bumble is going to go, where it's going to fly like a bee, right? Because it's a bumble bee, bees and the birds. That's about sex and okay, anyway.